When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject, dinner party. User, M1K3334. Posted, November 3rd, 1997.
The lights cut out right after the second toast. We all froze. Forks suspended midair, crystal glasses trembling just slightly in hand. Outside, the storm raged against the windows, wind howling like it had teeth. Lightning cracked, illuminating the long table in a harsh blue flash, and that's when Ellen let out a sound I still do not have words for. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't even human. It was low and guttural, like something ancient had just been ripped from the earth. She was sitting 3 seats down from me, across from her husband, Tom, hands clenched tight around her steak knife, and then she lunged. It all happened too fast to process. Chairs screeching, people shouting, the sudden thud of bodies hitting hardwood. When the lightning flashed again, she was on top of Rachel, snarling like a rabid animal. The knife pressed against her neck. Blood bloomed just enough to sting the air with iron. Greg tackled Ellen from behind. Chairs went flying. The knife clattered across the floor and vanished into the shadows. We restrained her, the 4 of us, and dragged her thrashing body into the heavy armchair near the fireplace. Someone, maybe Tom, maybe Peter, ripped the cord from the old drapes and started tying her down. Another bolt of lightning lit up the room. Her face was twisted into something unrecognizable. Her eyes were black as oil. "You think this is the worst of it?" she hissed. "You fools, you invited me in." Rachel was sobbing on the floor, cradling her neck. It wasn't deep, but it was enough. Rest of us just stared. 8 friends gathered for a cozy dinner party in a rented country home. An old estate we'd pooled money for, meant to be a rustic weekend escape, but no electricity now, no neighbors for miles, just us, the storm, and a feeling that something had followed us inside. Then Ellen laughed. Loud, unhinged. Want to play a game? We blocked the doors after that, dragged a heavy buffet in front of the one leading to the hall. Someone lit the old candelabras and placed them around the room, but the shadows didn't sit still. They kept twitching, crawling as if something moved just out of sight. She started talking around midnight, and that's when the secrets came. "Tom," she rasped, neck straining against the cords like she could still pounce. "Tell them where you really were last Thursday. You said you were out with the guys. Should I describe the cheap motel's bedspread, the mole on her thigh?" Tom's face went pale. She's making it up." "She knows things," Rachel whispered. "She knew what my dad said to me in the garage. That was 15 years ago. I never told anyone." Greg stood by the hearth, arms crossed, eyes never leaving Ellen. "It's bullshit. She's acting." "She's not acting," Peter muttered. "She called me Paul. That's my birth name. I haven't heard it since I left home. Nobody here knew that." At 2:17 a.m., the storm reached its peak. Shutters slammed, windows groaned, and Ellen's chair scraped forward an inch without anyone touching it. She then began to sing. A tuneless, reedy melody that scratched at your nerves like wire on glass. We tried to drown it out, banging on the table, yelling, plugging our ears, but she only got louder. Her face tilted skyward and her mouth kept moving even when the sound stopped. By 3 a.m., the room had split into camps. Half of us wanted to lock her in the pantry. The others wanted to ride out the storm and keep watch. No one suggested leaving. We'd all seen what she was capable of. Someone suggested sedating her, but no one had anything stronger than the whiskey, and she spat that out when we tried to get her to drink it. "She needs help," Tom said, pacing. "You have to wait until morning. She's sick." Rachel stood in the corner, arms wrapped around herself. "That's not sickness." Ellen twisted in the chair and grinned. "Rachel, how long are you going to pretend your mom didn't drown on purpose? She left that note. You found it, didn't you? Ripped it up before anyone else could." Rachel's face crumpled, and then Ellen turned to Greg. "Still dreaming about that woman in the red dress? Tell him what you did in that motel outside Little Rock. Tell him how she screamed when you shut her up," Greg roared, but none of us moved. And then, just as fast as it all started, the power returned. With a snap, every light in the room surged to life. A few bulbs even blew from the sudden charge, popping like gunshots, but the others stayed on, casting warm, steady light across the wreckage of the dining room. And in the chair, Ellen began to cry. Not scream, not laugh, just sob. Broken, confused, human sobs. Why am I tied up?" she stammered, blinking at us through tears. "Tom, what's happening? What did I do?" She looked normal. Her voice was hers again. Her eyes were hazel. She didn't recognize what had happened, and if it was an act, it was a damn good one. "No," Greg said. "Don't you dare untie her." "She's still in there," Rachel whispered. "I don't remember anything," Ellen sobbed. "Please, my arms hurt. What did I do? Why is everyone looking at me like that?" Tom knelt down and started working at the knots. We shouted, we begged him to stop, but he untied her anyway. Well, let's just say that wasn't the best idea.
Subject, Darlene. User, CBR00 adhog. Posted, July 19, 1999.
I passed exit 46 almost an hour before I stopped. Didn't slow down, didn't think about it really. Just another dark turnoff into trees and fog. A bent green sign, half hidden, flickered by in the high beams, and then it was gone behind me. I was driving south sometime past midnight. running on gas station coffee and adrenaline. My brother Sam was missing. A long-haul trucker, big guy, Braves cap, tattoo of a wrench on his forearm. He drove freight for a bottom-barrel company that paid in late checks and broken promises. Well, dispatch hadn't heard from him in 3 days. No CB call, no payphone check-in, nothing. The last time they heard from him was somewhere near I-81, and that was it. So I started driving, retracing his usual routes, looking for anything, his truck, his name, a whisper. I had nothing but highway and bad weather until I saw the Waffle House sign burning through the trees like an ember in the dark. I pulled off without thinking, stomach hollow and knotted, more from dread than hunger. Inside, it smelled like scorched grease and cheap bleach. 4 people total, a couple of tired-looking men hunched over coffees in the corner, and a jukebox stuck halfway through a warbly Reba song. The woman behind the counter didn't smile, didn't greet me. She just poured a cup and slid it across like she'd been waiting. Her name tag said Darlene. She had this drawn look to her, deep lines, pale eyes, like someone who sleeps with the lights on and never talks about why. She stared at me for a second longer than was comfortable and then said, "You look like him." I felt my throat tighten. "Who?" I asked, already knowing. "The trucker," she said. "Sat there not long ago. Big guy, Braves hat. He said he was tired." I nodded. "That's my brother, Sam. I've been trying to find him." Darlene didn't react, just reached under the counter and pulled out a shoebox filled with old Polaroids. Sun-faded, curling at the corners, names scrawled beneath in a thick Sharpie. Some said gone, others just had dates. She thumbed through them without speaking. I wanted to ask what this was, but my mouth was too dry. Finally, she said, "He told me he passed a gas station back up the road. Said he felt off about it. Lights were working, but it looked empty. Still, he went in." I felt my skin start to crawl. "Was it exit 46? I asked. Darlene didn't answer right away. She just looked past me like she was checking the windows. "That place hadn't been right in a long time," she muttered. "There's a Texaco just off the exit. Old. Should have been condemned in the 80s, but it's always lit. Always looks open. If you stop, there's a man behind the counter. A red vest, name tag says Bill, but he's not a man. Not anymore." My hands tightened around the mug. "What do you mean?" I whispered. Darlene gave me a long, quiet look, then said, "Let me tell you about another one. A kid came through here last year, 20s, bit of a limp, drove freight just like your brother, said he stopped to use the bathroom at that Texaco, never came back." She then leaned forward. Her voice dropped like she was trying to keep the walls from listening. "They found him a week later, still in his rig, parked miles from the station, doors locked from the inside, cab full of blood, ankle deep. His spine was crushed, every bone in his face shattered like glass, hands broken like he'd tried to claw his way through the windshield, and the bruises..." She trailed off for a second. "They were shaped like handprints, but upside down." I sat there, unable to speak. She reached into the shoebox and pulled out a photo, handed it to me like a death notice. I didn't want to look, but I did. It was Sam, standing beside his truck, half smiling in the way he always did when he was uncomfortable in front of a camera. But in the trees behind him, almost out of focus, was something tall, pale, long limbs bent wrong at the joints, a blur where a face should be, like the camera had refused to capture it cleanly. My stomach flipped. I slid the photo into my coat pocket and stood. "I need to find him," I said. Darlene shook her head. "If you go there, you won't come back. Not the way you are now, and if you're lucky, you'll disappear. If you're not..." Well, Darlene didn't finish. She just poured more coffee for a man who hadn't even asked for it, and I left. Walked out into the dark with the image of that thing burned behind my eyes. I didn't drive to exit 46 that night. I couldn't. I pulled off onto some gravel turnout near the state line, killed the engine, and sat there until dawn. The photo stayed face down on the seat beside me. I don't know why I kept it. That was days ago. I haven't gone back, but something in me says it's not over. Sometimes, late at night, I hear a whistling, off-key and slow, coming from nowhere, and sometimes when I drive, I swear I see something in the rear view just for a second, tall and still in the tree line watching. I tell myself I imagined it. I tell myself I've left it behind, but the truth is, I didn't stop at exit 46, but I think it's calling me.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd, and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.